In today's lesson, we'll be learning how to determine the equation of a line given 2 points. If you recall, the equation of a line in slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, where m represents the slope, b represents the y-intercept, and x and y represent any point on the line. And again, 2 points, 2 coordinates. One coordinate could be called x1, y1, whereas the other coordinate could be called x2, y2. In our first example, we want to find the equation of the line that passes through points A and B. Let's circle the key pieces of information. We want to find the equation, and we're given 2 points. The equation of a line in slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. However, we are not given the slope or the y-intercept, which means we have to figure out both of these values. Let's start with the slope. If you recall, the slope equation is m is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. In order to find the slope of a line, you need 2 points on that line. We are given 2 points on that line right over here. Let's label these so life's a little bit easier for ourselves. That would be x1, that would be y1, that would be x2, and that would be y2. We're going to substitute in these values into our slope equation. So let's write instructions for ourselves. Sub A and B. At this point, we're going to substitute in our values. So I'm going to put these in brackets. 5 minus 3 over 4 minus 2. Let's go ahead and simplify this. That just becomes 5 minus 3, and that is just 4 minus 2. And that should be pretty simple. That's 2 over 2. However, you can simplify this because 2 divided by 2 is 1. Therefore, the slope of our line is 1. However, we still need to figure out the y-intercept. Let's go ahead and do that over here. Remember, the general equation of a line in slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. We have just figured out our slope. Let's put that in. Sub slope is equal to 1. So instead of writing m, you're going to put the number 1 there. But we don't really like to put the 1 in. But for now, I'll just leave it as 1. At this point, to figure out what the y-intercept is, you need to substitute in any point on the line. Because we're given 2 points on the line, you can use either of these. So I'm going to write that down. Sub point A, which is 2 and 3. Or you can sub point B, which is 4 and 5. The choice is yours. You'll get the same answer either way. I'm going to use point A, so y is going to be 3, x is going to be 2, and everything else stays the same. The math here should be pretty simple. The 3 stays the same. Anything multiplied by 1 stays the same. 1 times 2 is 2. And the b is on its own. You want to figure out what b is, but b is stuck with this 2, positive 2. What is the opposite of positive 2? Negative 2. We're going to subtract 2 from both sides. 3 subtract 2 equals 2 subtract 2 plus b. 3 subtract 2 is 1. 2 subtract 2 is 0. So you that cancels out. The b remains there. Again, we read from left to right, so let's flip this around. B is equal to 1. Therefore, I've just found my y-intercept, and I know my slope because I figured that out over here on the left. Once you've done that, you can write the equation of your line, and I'm going to do that on the side. So the general equation of a line is y equals mx plus b. We wanted to figure out our slope and our y-intercept. We have done that. The slope was positive 1, while the y-intercept was positive 1 as well. It's a good idea to remove that 1, and you can leave this as just y equals x plus 1. That is the equation of this line. And I'm going to zoom out to show you all the work that was required for this one question. In our second example, we want to find the equation of the line that passes through points A and B. We're going to follow the exact same strategy as our previous question. Because we want to find the equation of a line, that means we are going to have to figure out two values. We're going to have to figure out the slope as well as the y-intercept, neither of which are given in our question. However, we know 2 points on the line, and that is more than enough information. Let's figure out our slope. Slope is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. We need 2 points before we can find the slope of this line. We are given 2 points. These points are points A and B. Let's label these x1 and y1, x2 and y2. Using these points, as well as this slope equation, we can figure out the slope. So I'm going to write instructions for myself. Sub point A and point B. All right. So I'm going to have negative 4 subtract 7. And on the bottom, I'm going to have 0 subtract negative 7. We're going to clean up some of these brackets and signs. So everything on the top stays the same pretty much. However, on the bottom, you have 2 negative signs beside each other. When you have 2 negative signs beside each other, that becomes positive. So that's 0 plus 7. This calculation should be pretty straightforward. Negative 4 subtract 7 is negative 11, and 0 plus 7 is 7. We can't reduce this any further, so let's just leave it as a improper fraction. So the slope is negative 11 over 7. We've just figured out our slope, but we still don't have the y-intercept, so let's go ahead and calculate that. Again, let's start with the general equation of a line, which is y equals mx plus b. Since we've already figured out the slope, let's substitute that in. The slope value is negative 11 over 7. So that's going to be negative 11 over 7x plus b. Remember, we want to figure out this value of b. However, we don't know what x and y are. X and y represent any point on this line. We were given 2 points on this line, so you can use either of these. I'm going to say sub point A, which is negative 7, or point B, which is 0, negative 4. The choice is yours. The answer will be exactly the same no matter which point you use. I'm going to use point B this time. So instead of y, I'm going to put negative 4. And instead of x, I'm going to put 0. Let's simplify some of these numbers. I can take the negative 4 out of the brackets. Anything multiplied by 0 is 0, and I don't write the 0 in. So that leaves me with just b. However, we read from left to right, so let's put the b on the left side, and b is equal to negative 4. I've just figured out my y-intercept. Now that you've figured out your y-intercept, let's put the slope value and y-intercept value together into an equation. Let's do that over here. Again, you start with the general equation of a line, which is y equals mx plus b. We figured out slope and we figured out the y-intercept. So let's put those values in. The slope was negative 11 over 7, and the y-intercept was -4. Therefore, the equation of this line is y equals -11/7x minus 4. And I'm going to just show you all the work that was required for this one question. In our third example, we want to find the equation of the line that passes through points A and B. Since we want to find the equation of a line, we need to figure out two values. Those values are slope and y-intercept. We're not given slope or y-intercept, but we are given 2 points on the line, and that is more than enough information to figure out slope and y-intercept. We're going to first find the slope. Slope is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. This means we need 2 points on the line to figure out the slope. We are given 2 points. Let's label these. Let's label this x1, y1, x2, y2. So when we go back to our equation, we can substitute in these points. So let's say sub point A, which is 4, 5, and point B, which is 8, 3. Let's substitute in these values. y2 is 3, y1 is 5, x2 is 8, and x1 is 4. Let's simplify some of these numbers. We can take everything out of the brackets, and this should be pretty simple. 3 minus 5 is -2, and 8 minus 4 is 4. We can simplify this fraction. -2 over 4 simplifies into -1 over 2. How exactly do we do that? Well, I divide both the top and bottom by 2. Therefore, our slope is -1 over 2. However, we still need to find the y-intercept. So let's do that up here. Start with the general equation of a line, which is y equals mx plus b. We've just figured out what our slope is equal to, so let's substitute that in. So sub m is equal to -1 over 2. Let's rewrite our equation with that slope value substituted in. At this point, we want to figure out what b is equal to. However, we have these other two variables, x and y. Remember, x and y represent any point on this line. We've been given 2 points on this line, so we can use either of them. I'm going to say sub points A or point B. The choice is yours. Either way, you will get the same answer. I'm going to choose point A this time. So instead of writing y, that's going to be a 5. The slope stays the same. Instead of writing x, I'm going to write 4. And the b stays the same. Let's clean up some of these numbers. 5 can be taken out of brackets. 4 as a fraction is just 4 over 1. Multiplying fractions is quite easy. You just multiply the numerators and multiply the denominators. So -1 times 4 is -4, and 2 times 1 is 2. We can simplify this fraction. -4 over 2 is the same thing as -2, because 4 divided by 2 is 2, and a negative number divided by a positive number gives you a negative number. At this point, b is still stuck with this -2. Let's remove this -2. The opposite of -2 is +2, so I'm going to add 2 to both sides. So 5 plus 2 is 7. -2 plus 2 is 0. We don't write our zeros in because it cancels out, so we're just left with 7 is equal to b. And you know I like to rewrite it as one would read it from left to right. So b is equal to 7. So 7 is the y-intercept. We've just figured out our slope and y-intercept. Let's write our final answer. We're going to start with the equation of a line, which is y equals mx plus b. Remember, we set out to find the slope and the y-intercept. We've done both of those. So the equation of the line is y is equal to negative 1 over 2x plus 7. I'm just going to put that in a box.